Lee Taeho stared at the message on his screen for the third time that morning. The words did not change no matter how many times he read them. The Galactic Council wanted to see him. They wanted to see all of humanity's leaders, actually. But, as Earth's chief ambassador, he would be the one going to their meeting. The message was polite. Too polite. When powerful people were very polite, it usually meant trouble was coming. "Sir?" Park Soo-jin knocked on his office door. She was his aide and one of the smartest people he knew. If anyone could help him figure out what this meeting really meant, it would be her. "Come in, Soo-jin, we have a problem." She sat down across from his desk. Her dark eyes were serious as always. Soo-jin never smiled much, but she was the best at reading between the lines of alien messages. "The council message? You've seen it?" "Of course, I've been waiting for something like this for months." She pulled out her tablet and showed him a star map. "Look at our expansion in the last 5 years." Taeho looked at the map. Red dots showed human colonies. There were so many red dots now. Humanity had been busy, very busy. They had found new worlds, built new cities, and sent out more ships every year. "We've been growing fast," he said. Too fast for their liking. Soo-jin zoomed in on several areas. These colonies are all near alien territory, not inside their space, but close enough to make them nervous. Taeho rubbed his temples. He had been a soldier before becoming a diplomat. In the military, threats were simple. Someone pointed a gun at you. You pointed one back. Diplomacy was much more complicated. "What do you think they want?" "To put us in a cage." Soo-jin's voice was flat. "A nice, comfortable cage where we stop growing and start following their rules." The door chimed, again. Commander Kim Do-woon entered without waiting for permission. He was head of Taeho's security team and an old friend from their military days. Kim never looked worried about anything, but today his face was tight with concern. "Pack light," Kim said. "We leave for the Vega system in 6 hours." 6 hours? Taeho stood up. "That's not much time to prepare. It's not meant to be." Kim sat down heavily. "They want us off balance, rushing to meet them instead of taking time to think and plan." Soo-jin was already typing on her tablet. "I'll need to pack the cultural files and recent colony reports. If they're going to complain about our expansion, we need to know exactly what we've done and where." "Good thinking." Taeho looked out his window at the busy streets of New Geneva. People were walking to work, children were playing in parks, and construction robots were building new apartments. Life was good for humanity. Their population was growing, their technology was advancing, and their spirits were high. That was probably the problem. "Kim, what do we know about their military positions?" "Funny you should ask." Kim activated a hologram projector. The air above the desk filled, with ship positions and fleet movements. They've been moving ships around for the past month. Not toward us, but not away from us either. "What does that mean?" "It means they want to look strong without looking like they're about to attack." Kim pointed to several alien fleet positions. "Classic intimidation tactics. Show force but claim it's just routine patrols." Soo-jin looked up from her tablet. "I've been studying their recent communications with other species. The Council has been very busy lately. They've held similar meetings with the Rigel Colony Federation and the Centauri Free Worlds." "What happened to those groups?" "They agreed to Council oversight, limited their expansion, started following Council rules about trade and colonization." Soo-jin's expression was grim. "They're still independent on paper, but they can't make any big decisions without Council approval." Taeho felt a cold weight in his stomach. "They want to do the same thing to us. Probably worse. We're bigger than those other groups, we're growing faster, and we haven't asked for their permission to do anything." Kim laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "Permission? We're humans. We don't ask permission to explore the galaxy. We just do it." "That's exactly what scares them," Soo-jin said. Taeho walked to his window again. Down on the street, a group of teenagers was looking at a poster advertising colony ships to the Kepler system. Their eyes were bright with excitement and dreams of adventure. That was what humanity was about, always moving forward, always looking for the next horizon. sir? Sujin was watching him carefully. What are you thinking? I'm thinking about those kids down there, about all the families who've moved to new worlds in the past decade, about the fact that we have the highest birth rate of any known species. He turned back to face them. I'm thinking the council isn't really worried about territory disputes. What are they worried about? Kim asked. Us. Just us existing and growing and being successful. Taeho sat back down. Sujin, I want you to research something for me. Find out everything you can about council species population trends, technological advancement, and colony establishment in the past 50 years. Looking for patterns? Looking for the truth behind this meeting. He stood up and straightened, his jacket. If they want to play diplomatic games, fine, but I want to know what we're really dealing with before I sit down at their table. Kim was already moving toward the door. I'll prep the ship and security team. How many people are we taking? Small delegation. You, Sujin, myself, and maybe 2 technical advisors. We're going to talk, not fight. Yet, Kim muttered. Yet, Taeho agreed. As his team left to prepare, Taeho looked at the council message one more time. The meeting was scheduled for the neutral station Harmony's Edge, orbiting in the Vega system. Neutral ground, they said. Safe for all parties, they promised. He had a feeling that after this meeting, nothing would be safe anymore. The Harmony's Edge station was huge. Taeho watched it grow larger through the view screen as their ship approached. The station looked like a giant flower made of metal and crystal, with 12 petals extending from a central hub. Each petal belonged to one of the council species. Impressive, said Dr. Yoon Hyejin, their xenobiologist. She had joined the delegation at the last minute when Sujin suggested they might need someone who understood alien biology. But also very old. Look at the hull plating on some of those sections. Taeho looked where she pointed. Some parts of the station were clearly much older than others. The metal was darker, the designs more basic. How old do you think? Some sections could be 500 years old or more. This station has been expanded many times, but not recently. Heejin pulled up scans on her tablet. The newest sections are at least 50 years old. Captain Jang Minho, their military attaché, was studying different readings. Their defensive systems are outdated too. Powerful, but based on old technology. We could take this station with a single heavy cruiser. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, Taeho said, though he filed the information away. In negotiations, it always helped to know your real position versus your opponent's. The docking process took an hour. Council protocols were very formal and very slow. Every step had to be approved by multiple species. Even simple things like which airlock to use required a committee decision. Finally, they were inside. The station's corridors were wide and tall, built to accommodate species of different sizes. The gravity was set to council standard, which was lighter than Earth normal. Taeho felt like he was walking on a low-gravity world. Their escort was a Veltari named Sefnos. The Veltari looked like walking crystals, tall and thin with faceted surfaces that caught the light. Sefnos spoke through a translator device that hung around what might have been its neck. The High Council awaits your presence, the translator said in perfect English. Please follow designated pathways. Do not deviate from approved routes. The meeting chamber was at the center of the station. It was a large circular room with the council members sitting at a curved table that went halfway around the space. The human delegation sat at a smaller table facing them. Taeho had studied files on all the council species, but seeing them in person was different. The Veltari representatives looked magnificent but somehow brittle. The Mordun, who lived in water suits, moved slowly and carefully. The energy beings called Luxani flickered weakly in their containment fields. High Counselor Zeftos of the Veltari spoke first. His translator made his words sound very formal and important. Welcome, representatives of humanity. We gather in the spirit of peace and galactic harmony. Thank you for inviting us, Taeho replied. He kept his voice neutral and polite. The Council has concerns about human activities in recent years. Your species has been aggressive in its expansion. Taeho felt Soo-jin shift slightly beside him. They had expected this accusation. Could you be more specific about these concerns? A hologram appeared above the table, showing a star map. Red markers indicated human colonies, while other colors showed council territories. The human colonies did look like they were spreading everywhere. Humanity has established colonies in 17 systems that border council territories, said Councillor Murdoch of the Morden. His water suit made bubbling sounds as he spoke. These colonies violate established buffer zones. I was not aware that empty space had been claimed as buffer zones, Taeho said carefully. These zones have been recognized for 300 years, said a Luxani representative. Its voice was like whispers of wind. All civilized species respect these boundaries. Soo-jin leaned forward slightly. Could you provide documentation of these buffer zone agreements? Our records don't show any treaties establishing such zones. The council members looked at each other. It was the kind of look that meant they had expected humanity to simply accept their word without asking for proof. The zones are traditional, Zeftos said finally, established by ancient custom. Customs that humanity never agreed to follow, Taeho pointed out. Another council member activated the hologram controls. Now the display showed human fleet movements and colony ships. Your military expansion is also concerning. Human fleets patrol areas far beyond your established territories. Captain Yang Min-ho spoke up. Those are exploration and colony protection patrols, standard procedure for any expanding civilization. Expanding too fast, said the Mordun counselor. Expansion should be controlled, regulated. The galaxy requires order. Order according to whom? Taeho asked. According to those who have maintained peace for 5 centuries, Zeftos replied. His crystal form seemed to glow brighter with emotion. The council has prevented wars, mediated disputes, and ensured stability. Dr. Yoon Hee-jin had been quiet during the discussion, but now she looked up from her tablet with a puzzled expression. Councillor Zeftos, if I may ask a medical question? The crystal being turned toward her. Proceed. I've been studying council species demographics. Your birth rates have been declining for decades. The Veltari haven't had a successful reproduction in 57 years. The Mordun population has dropped by 30% in the past century. Even the Luxani are showing signs of energy dissipation that suggests population decline. The chamber became very quiet. Taeho felt tension growing around the curved table. Our reproductive cycles are not your concern, Zeftos said coldly. Of course not. I was simply wondering if there might be a connection between population decline and the council's concerns about human expansion. Hye-jin's voice was purely academic, but Taeho could see where she was going with this. What kind of connection? Asked a council member Taeho didn't recognize. Well, humanity currently has a population growth rate of 1.3% annually. We're establishing an average of 12 new colonies per year. Our technology advancement rate is accelerating. Meanwhile, council species appear to be in demographic decline with minimal expansion for the past several decades. Soo-jin was typing rapidly on her tablet, pulling up the research Taeho had requested. Actually, our data shows that no council species has established a new colony in over 40 years. Most have actually abandoned outer settlements and consolidated populations on core worlds. The council members were definitely uncomfortable now. Some were whispering to each other in their own languages. This is irrelevant to the matter at hand, Zeftos said. Is it? Taeho leaned back in his chair. Because it sounds like the council is asking the only growing, expanding, vital civilization in this region to limit itself to accommodate civilizations that are already in decline. We offer stability and wisdom, said the Luxani representative. You offer stagnation, Captain Jang said bluntly. Zeftos stood up, his crystal form catching the chamber lights. Humanity will cease expansion beyond current borders. You will submit all future colony plans to council approval. You will reduce your fleet size to 200 vessels maximum. You will pay reparations for unauthorized settlements in buffer zones. You will accept council observers on all human worlds. The terms hung in the air like a death sentence. Taeho looked at his team. Soo-jin's face was angry but controlled. Haya Jin looked fascinated, like she was watching an interesting biological specimen. Captain Yang looked like he wanted to start shooting something. "And if we refuse?" Taeho asked. "Then the Council will be forced to take action to preserve galactic peace." Taeho stood up slowly. "I see. And how long do we have to consider these generous terms?" 24 hours. "Thank you. We'll need to consult with our government, as a..." They left the chamber. Taeho felt the weight of the Council's stares on his back. But he also felt something else. The certainty that this meeting had just changed everything. The galaxy was about to discover what happened when you tried to cage humanity. The emergency session of the Global Assembly was loud and angry. Taeho had never seen the representatives so upset. Voices echoed through the great chamber as delegates argued over the Council's demands. "This is outrageous," shouted Representative Chen from the African Union. "They want us to stop exploring? Stop growing? That's like asking us to stop being human." Prime Minister Cho Sang-min banged his gavel for order. He was a tall man with sharp eyes, who had led Earth through its greatest period of expansion. "Let Ambassador Lee finish his report before we discuss responses." Taeho stood at the center podium, looking up at the curved rows of seats filled with angry faces. These people represented every nation and colony in human space. What he said next would shape humanity's future. "The Council's terms are not negotiable points," he continued. "They are surrender demands. Accept them, and humanity becomes a junior member of a dying galactic order." Dr. Han So-young, the Minister of Colonial Affairs, raised her hand. She was known for being careful and diplomatic. "Ambassador Lee, perhaps we could negotiate some middle ground. Maybe limited expansion with Council oversight?" "Minister Han, with respect, there is no middle ground when someone asks you to stop growing." Taeho activated a hologram showing the galaxy. "Look at this map. Human space is marked in blue, Council territories in red. Notice anything?" The assembly studied the display. Slowly, murmurs of understanding began to spread. "The Council territories are shrinking," said Representative Okafor from the Luna colonies. "Their outer settlements are being abandoned." "Exactly. While we've been expanding and growing, they've been consolidating and declining." Taeho changed the display to show population trends. Every Council species is experiencing demographic collapse. Some haven't had successful reproduction in decades. Admiral Shin Jae-wook stood up from the military section. He was the commander of Earth's space fleet and a man who understood strategic thinking. "They don't want peace. They want to prevent us from inheriting the galaxy they can no longer control." The chamber erupted in angry voices again. Cho Sang-min had to bang his gavel several times to restore order. Professor Nam Ki-young requested permission to speak. He was elderly and respected, a historian who specialized in alien civilizations. The chamber grew quiet when he approached the podium. "I have studied the Council's history for 30 years, he began. "This is not the first time they have made such demands. 60 years ago, they gave similar ultimatums to the Rigel Federation and the Centauri Free Worlds." "What happened to those civilizations?" asked Minister Han. "They agreed to Council oversight. Within 20 years, both had stopped expanding. Their birth rates dropped. Their technological advancement slowed. Today, they are minor regional powers, following Council guidelines." Nam Ki-young's voice was grave. They traded their future for the promise of peace. The chamber was silent now. Everyone understood what the professor was saying. "The Council doesn't just want to limit our expansion," Nam continued. "They want to make us like them, static, declining, safe." Representative Singh from the Mars colony stood up. "What's the alternative? Do we fight the entire galactic establishment?" Admiral Shin answered before anyone else could speak. "If necessary, yes, but I don't think it will come to that." "Explain," said Prime Minister Cho. The Admiral activated his own hologram, showing military positions throughout the galaxy. "The Council's fleets are old and scattered. They haven't fought a real war in centuries. Their ships are powerful, but their tactics are outdated. Most importantly, they're not unified." "What do you mean?" asked Tejo. Look at their fleet positions. Each species maintains its own military. They coordinate through committees and consensus. That works fine for patrol duties and intimidation, but it's terrible for actual warfare. Shin highlighted several areas on the map. If conflict starts, they'll spend more time arguing about strategy than implementing it. Dr. Han So-young looked worried. Admiral, are you suggesting we fight 12 alien civilizations? I'm suggesting we don't have to. Half of those civilizations are barely maintaining their current territories. 3 more are so focused on internal problems they can barely contribute to Council activities. That leaves maybe 6 species with real military capability, and they've never operated as a unified force. Tejo felt a strange certainty growing in his mind. There's another factor to consider. What message does accepting their terms send to other species? I don't follow, said Minister Han. There are dozens of younger civilizations watching this confrontation. Species that have just developed space travel or are beginning to explore their local systems. If humanity submits to Council control, what does that tell them about the price of growth and independence? The Assembly was listening intently now. It tells them that success is punished, continued Tejo. That expanding and thriving brings unwanted attention from established powers. That the price of peace is permanent subjugation. Representative Chen nodded vigorously. But if we refuse and succeed in maintaining our independence, then every young species in the galaxy learns that growth is possible, that the old order can be challenged, that the future belongs to those willing to reach for it. Prime Minister Cho stood up slowly. Ambassador Li, what exactly are you proposing? Tejo took a deep breath. This was the moment that would define his career and possibly human history. I propose we reject their terms completely, all of them. Not just the expansion limits, but the entire framework of Council authority over human affairs. The chamber exploded in discussion. Some delegates looked excited, others terrified. Furthermore, Tejo continued, raising his voice over the noise, I propose we withdraw from all previous agreements that recognize Council jurisdiction over disputed territories. We claim our right as a sovereign species to expand into any unoccupied space. That's a complete break with the Galactic Order, whispered Minister Han. The Galactic Order is dying, Admiral Shin said firmly. The question is whether we die with it or help build something new. Professor Nam approached the podium again. If I may share a historical perspective? The chamber grew quiet. Every great civilization reaches a point where it must choose between comfortable decline and risky growth. The Council species chose comfort. They built a system designed to prevent change, conflict, and uncertainty. They succeeded. They also ensured their own stagnation. He looked around the chamber at the faces of humanity's representatives. Humanity has always chosen differently. We left Africa when it was easier to stay. We crossed oceans when the shoreline was safer. We reached for the stars when Earth was comfortable enough. Each time we chose the difficult path that led to growth over the easy path that led to comfort. The old professor's voice grew stronger. The Council offers us the same choice our species has faced many times before. Safety in exchange for our future. Comfort in exchange for our dreams. The certainty of slow decline in exchange for the risk of unlimited growth. Prime Minister Cho looked around the chamber. All in favor of rejecting the Council's terms and withdrawing from previous agreements? Hands began to rise. Slowly at first, then faster as delegates saw others making the choice. Tejo counted the votes with growing amazement. It wasn't even close. Nearly 3/4 of the Global Assembly chose to reject the Council's demands. The motion passes, announced Cho. Ambassador Li, you will return to the Council with humanity's response. As the session ended and delegates began filing out, Tejo felt the weight of history on his shoulders. Humanity had just chosen to walk away from the established galactic order. Now they had to prove they were strong enough to survive that choice. The Council chamber felt different when Tejo returned. The air seemed heavier, the lights dimmer. Or maybe it was just his imagination. He knew what he was about to do would change everything. The 12 Council representatives sat in their curved arrangement, confident and expectant. They had given humanity 24 hours to accept their terms. No species had ever refused a council ultimatum before. High Counselor Zeftos gestured for Teho to approach the center of the chamber. Ambassador Lee, has your government reached a decision regarding our generous terms? Teho walked slowly to the center of the room. Sujin and the rest of his team followed, taking their positions at the small human table. He could feel alien eyes watching his every movement. Yes, High Counselor. We have reached a decision. Excellent. The Council is prepared to welcome humanity into the established galactic order. Teho smiled. It was not a happy smile. I'm afraid there has been a misunderstanding. The crystal being's faceted form seemed to freeze. Explain. The Global Assembly has reviewed your proposal very carefully. We appreciate the time and effort you put into drafting such detailed terms. Teho paused, looking at each council member in turn. However, we must respectfully decline. The chamber was silent for several long seconds. Then Councillor Murdak, of the Morden, spoke up, his water suit bubbling with agitation. Decline? You cannot decline. These are not suggestions. With respect, Counselor, they are exactly that. Suggestions from one group of civilizations to another. Humanity is not bound by your authority and never agreed to be. Zeftos rose from his seat, his crystal form glowing brighter with what Teho assumed was anger. The Council maintains order in this galaxy. We have done so for 500 years. And you've done an admirable job, Teho replied calmly. But humanity is not asking you to stop maintaining order in your territories. We simply reject your claim to authority over ours. A new voice spoke up, one of the energy beings called Luxani. Its words were like whispered wind. You risk war with powers beyond your comprehension. Do we? Teho activated his own hologram, projector. The chamber filled with star charts and fleet positions. Let's examine that claim. The display showed the current positions of Council fleets. Teho had prepared this presentation very carefully. Veltari forces. 43 ships, scattered across 17 systems. Powerful vessels, but mostly patrol craft and system defense platforms. Only 12 heavy warships. Zeftos's glow flickered. Our fleet strength is not your concern. Morden naval forces. 31 vessels, of which only 8 are capable of extended operations outside aquatic systems. The rest require specialized water support that limits their operational range. The water-suited alien made angry, bubbling sounds. Teho continued methodically. Luxani energy ships. 19 vessels showing significant power degradation. Based on energy signature analysis, most are operating at 60% capacity or lower. This is outrageous, shouted a council member Teho hadn't heard speak before. You dare analyze our military capabilities? I dare to understand the reality of our situation, Teho replied. Total council fleet strength, approximately 400 vessels across 12 species. Impressive number, but with significant problems. He changed the display to show command structures and communication networks. Problem 1. No unified command. Each species maintains independent military control. Coordination requires committee consensus and translation through multiple languages and communication methods. Several council members were now conferring in urgent whispers. Problem 2. No recent combat experience. The Council hasn't fought a real war in over 2 centuries. Your ships are designed for patrol duties and intimidation, not sustained military operations. Problem 3. Aging infrastructure. Most Council vessels are operating with technology that is decades or centuries old. Powerful, yes, but inflexible and difficult to upgrade. Zeftos managed to interrupt. And what of human military strength? You have barely 300 ships across all your colonies. 347, actually. But you're missing the important differences. Teho smiled again. Human fleet. Unified command structure with rapid communication and decision-making capability. All vessels equipped with current generation technology designed for modularity. And field upgrades. Most importantly, 30% of our fleet consists of ships less than 5 years old. Captain Jiang spoke up from the human table. We also have 17 shipyards currently under construction and plans for 40 more in the next 3 years. Our ship production rate is increasing exponentially. The council chamber was growing more agitated by the minute. This is beside the point, said a reptilian-looking representative. The council's authority does not derive from military strength alone. We maintain the balance of galactic civilization. What balance? Sujin asked quietly. She had been waiting for this moment. Counselor, could you name the last new species to join the council? That is, the Veltari joined 130 years ago. And before that? The Morden, 210 years ago. So no new members in over a century. Meanwhile, at least 15 species have achieved space travel in that same period. Why weren't they invited to join? The reptilian being looked uncomfortable. They were not ready for council membership. Or they were told to wait until they proved themselves worthy, until they demonstrated they could follow council guidance and accept council limitations. Sujin's voice was growing sharper. How many of those 15 species are still expanding and growing? Silence. How many are stagnating in their home systems after accepting council advice about rapid expansion being dangerous? More silence. Tejo stepped forward again. The truth is, the council doesn't want new members. You want subjects. Species that will accept your authority and follow your limitations while you manage the decline of galactic civilization. Offer stability! Zephtos' crystal form was glowing so brightly it was painful to look at. You offer stagnation. You've created a system designed to prevent change, growth, and challenge to established order. It worked perfectly. It also ensured that every species under council guidance would eventually decline and fade away. Tejo looked around the chamber at the alien representatives. Some looked angry, others confused. A few seemed almost resigned. Humanity rejects your offer of managed decline. We choose growth over safety, challenge over comfort, and an uncertain future over guaranteed mediocrity. He pulled out a formal document and placed it on the table in front of him. Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from all previous agreements recognizing council authority over disputed territories. We claim the right of any sovereign species to expand into unoccupied space and establish colonies wherever we choose. The EU chamber erupted in alien voices speaking in dozens of different languages. Through the chaos, Tejo heard his translator picking up fragments. Impossible. Unprecedented. They cannot. This means war. Tejo waited for the noise to die down, then spoke in a clear, carrying voice. Furthermore, humanity formally offers an alternative to any species that wishes to pursue growth and expansion instead of managed decline. Our space, our technology, and our friendship are available to those who choose progress over stagnation. He turned and walked toward the exit. Sujin and the rest of his team fell into step behind him. Where are you going? Zephtos demanded. Tejo paused at the chamber door and looked back. Home, High Counselor. To help build the future the Council fears. As the human delegation left the chamber, they could hear angry alien voices rising behind them. But Tejo also thought he heard something else in the chaos. Voices that sounded less angry and more curious. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when someone finally said no to the Council. Walking away had never felt so much like walking toward something better. 6 months later, Tejo stood in his new office looking at a very different galaxy. As Director of Human Galactic Affairs, he had one of the best views on Earth, and one of the most interesting jobs in human space. His secretary knocked and entered without waiting for permission. Quan In-sung had that privilege as humanity's lead diplomatic coordinator. He was also one of the few people who could make sense of the chaos that galactic politics had become. The morning reports, In-sung said, setting a tablet on Tejo's desk. The Rigel Federation wants to join our expansion partnership. The Centauri Free Worlds are asking for military advisors, and 3 more species have formally withdrawn from Council oversight. Tejo smiled as he read through the updates. 6 months ago, the Council was the unchallenged authority in this galaxy. Now they're sending us peace feelers every week. Speaking of which, You have another council message. In-sung looked amused. This one's from a group calling themselves the Progressive Faction. They want to discuss mutual cooperation and shared growth. Translation: they want to join the winning side before their own species become completely irrelevant. The door chimed again. Captain Oh Yunbi entered, still wearing her exploration uniform. She commanded humanity's first deep space exploration fleet and had just returned from a 6-month mission beyond Council space. "Director," she said, saluting casually, "you're going to want to see this." She activated the room's hologram projector. The air filled with a 3-dimensional star map showing the galaxy's outer rim. "We found 17 systems with intelligent life," Oh said. "All of them space-capable, some with colonies of their own. None of them had ever heard of the Galactic Council." Taeho leaned forward with interest. "What kind of civilizations? Young ones, expanding ones, growing ones?" Oh highlighted several systems on the map. "The Cathari have established 12 colonies in the past 20 years. The Vossen are building a space elevator that puts our engineering to shame. The Zilnoth have developed some kind of faster-than-light communication system that doesn't rely on quantum entanglement. Did you make contact?" "Preliminary discussions only. But they're very interested in meeting other species that believe in expansion and growth instead of, what did they call it? The stagnation philosophy of the inner galaxy." In-sung was typing rapidly on his tablet. "I'll need to coordinate with the Colonial Initiative. If we're going to have formal contact with 17 new species, we'll need expanded diplomatic protocols." The door chimed yet again. Director Bae Jun-seo of the Human Colonial Initiative practically burst into the room. He was grinning like a man who had just won the Galactic lottery. "We broke the record," he announced. 43 new colonies established this quarter. Population growth is up 18%, and we have colonization requests for over 200 additional systems. 200? Taeho was amazed. "Where are all these requests coming from?" "Everywhere. Human families who want more room. Young species that want to establish joint colonies with us. Even some older species that are tired of council restrictions and want to try expansion again." Bae activated his own data display. "Look at this. The Iridian Collective just abandoned 3 council-mandated consolidation zones and established new settlements near our colonies. The Kestai Commonwealth is building their first new starships in 60 years. Even some Veltari, splinter groups are asking about joining human expansion efforts. The council's losing control," Oh observed. "They lost control the day we walked away," Taeho said. "They just didn't realize it yet." In-sung looked up from his tablet. "Actually, they're starting to realize it. Admiral Shin's intelligence reports show increasing council fleet movements. Not aggressive positioning, but definitely defensive consolidation." "Are they planning to attack us?" "No, they're planning to survive us." In-sung pulled up military analysis reports. 3 council species have withdrawn their fleets to core territories. 2 more have entered into defensive pacts with each other. The Luxani have actually started negotiating with the Progressive Faction about limited cooperation with human expansion. They're choosing sides, Taeho realized. The smart ones are. The stubborn ones are digging in deeper and demanding that remaining council members unite against human aggression. In-sung shrugged. "It's not working. Too many species have already decided that growth is better than decline." Captain O's communication device beeped with an urgent message. She read it quickly, then looked up with surprise. "Director, I'm getting a real-time message from the Cathari. They want to propose something called a Galactic Growth Alliance, a formal partnership between expanding species for mutual cooperation and defense." "Defense against what?" Quote, "Stagnant civilizations that seek to prevent progress and limit the potential of younger species." Taeho felt a familiar feeling, the same certainty he had experienced 6 months ago when he decided to reject the council's terms. Set up a meeting. If young civilizations throughout the galaxy are ready to organize for growth instead of accepting managed decline, humanity should be part of that conversation. Director Bae was still studying his colonization data. "You know what this means. Don't you? We're not just changing human civilization. We're changing the entire galactic paradigm. From maintenance to growth, Tejo agreed. From safety to opportunity. From established order to unlimited potential. His communication system chimed with an incoming message. Tejo recognized the sender code immediately. It was from the Council. He opened the message and read it twice to make sure he understood correctly. "Gentleman Captain O," he said slowly, "we just received a formal request from High Counselor Seftos and the Progressive faction. They want to schedule peace talks." "Peace talks?" In-Sung looked confused. "We're not at war." "No, but they're losing something more important than a war. They're losing relevance." Tejo reread the message. "They want to discuss frameworks for mutual cooperation between expanding and established civilizations." "Translation?" asked Captain O. "They want to join us instead of trying to stop us." The room was quiet for a moment as everyone considered the implications. "What do we tell them?" Director Bay asked. Tejo looked out his window at the busy spaceport beyond. Ships were launching every few minutes. Colony vessels, exploration craft, trade ships, and diplomatic shuttles heading to dozens of different worlds. The sky was full of humanity's future. We tell them the same thing we told them 6 months ago. Humanity doesn't accept limitations on our growth and expansion. We don't ask permission to explore and settle new worlds, and we don't recognize anyone's authority to manage our civilization. He turned back to his team. But we also tell them that our space, our technology, and our friendship are available to any species that chooses growth over stagnation, even former council members who decide they want to try expanding again. In-Sung was already typing. "I'll draft a response. Same terms we offer everyone else. Partnership as equals in building something new, not subordination to something old." "Good. And schedule a meeting with the Kithari about their Galactic Growth Alliance proposal. If the galaxy is going to organize around expansion instead of consolidation, humanity should help lead that effort." As his team left to coordinate the dozens of projects that were reshaping galactic civilization, Tejo remained at his window. 6 months ago, he had walked away from an offer of comfortable subjugation. Today, the galaxy was reorganizing itself around the principles humanity had chosen instead. The Council had offered them a cage. Humanity had chosen the stars, and now the stars were choosing them back.